while ago, I made a video in which I made a fully functional calculator within the Figma using variables and conditional prototyping. If you haven't watched that video, I recommend you to do so. You're going to get familiar with the basic and foundation of variables and how you can make more complex logics in your prototype using the conditional prototyping. You can watch that video by clicking on the pop-up banner on top, or you can find the link to that video in the description. After that video, I got a lot of messages that you mentioned I missed one of the very important button of the calculator, which is the equal button. Yes, that's right. I didn't work on the functionality of the equal button. So user wouldn't be able to use that button to get the final result of the mathematical calculation. One of my viewers reached out to me in my Instagram and asked me to go one step further and design one section for this calculator in which user can see the history of all the operations. During the last weeks, I tried a little bit to work on this matter and bring the functionality to my equal button, and of course work a little bit on the history section of my calculator. And in this video, I'm going to share my learnings and thought about this topic. I'm going to learn how to use variables, how to define the variables, what is the method that I'm using in order to understand how many variables and which kind of variables do I need for my interaction and prototypes. And of course, you're going to learn how to use multiple conditional prototyping within one interaction to create and design very complex logic of your interaction, which will increase the realism of your prototype. So bear with me until the end of this video. And as always, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and get sure to share it with the other designer that you believe this video might help them as well. Now, without further ado, let's get started. My name is Kia and here is the Kimo. Welcome back to my channel. In the beginning, I have to mention that I'm not going to work on the user interface of the calculator itself. I'm not going to design it from the scratch. I'm going to use the design that Blanda sent me actually in my Instagram. She's one of the viewers that reached out to me to ask a question related to equal button and the history section. So I just asked her if I can use her design here in this video, and she gave me a positive response. So I'm going to use her design here and build the logic and prototypes on top of that. So this is the prototype that I prepared like for this video, and I'm gonna go through each section of my work and explain you a little bit that how I come up with this result. As you can see, as a user, I can enter any number that I would like to have using this number pad. And then I can choose the operation, the mathematical operation that I would like to apply on my calculation. For example, here in this case, I click on the plus or add button. As you can see here, I have two kind of section, which is going to display some information to me. The first one is basically showing everything that I enter as a user input. And the second one is showing the result of the calculation up until this point. If I click on the equal button, you can see that we see this equal at the end of our calculation. And then we see the final result. At this point, if I start to enter any new kind of number, we will see that the calculator is going to automatically reset to the initial state. Also, in addition, if I click on the history, you can see that we can see the history of the previous action from the user. For example, if I continue to do another mathematical operations, you can see that the next actions are also added to my history. Before I get deeper into the details of each interaction that I have in this prototype, I would like to give you some tips about the process itself. Before you start to do your prototypes, when you have your user interface ready, it's the best time to think about the user flow. You need to have a clear user flow because that's the thing that defines the logics and the interactions that are going to happen in your design. When you have the user flow, as I said, you can define the variables that you might need in that user flow to store the information that will help you to create those logic and interactions. For example, in my user flow in this case, I decided to have this restriction for the user that the user cannot click on the operational button more than one time after each other. For example, right now I click on the plus button, I cannot click again on the plus button. This is the restriction and condition that I defined after I understood the user flow. And the next point that I found it very important, and I want to share it with you, is that the Figma is not the right tool for creating and designing such a complex logic for the prototypes. One of the reasons that we do the prototyping is to reduce the cost and the time and effort that we are spending on kind of designing and creating high fidelity prototypes before we do any development. And if we want to spend a lot of time to design that realism level of the interactions in our prototype, then that prototype is not worthy. So right now we will do it for educational purpose, to get familiar with the variables, to get familiar with creating logic using the conditional, but most probably in real work you would never use Figma to do such a prototyping. So first thing first, let's see which kind of variables I used in order to kind of design this prototype. So I'm gonna open the local variable panel, and here you can see a bunch of variables. Let's go through this list together. First variable is the variable that I'm going to connect it to this text field in order to show all the actions that user does, such as entering a number and of course choosing the mathematical operation. The next variable is the number variable. I name it like number user input. The first part is just showing the type of the variable that I have, and the next one is showing the functionality and how I use it in my prototype. So this variable is going to basically save and store the number that user entered into the calculator. I'm going to use this variable to do the kind of main mathematical calculation. The other variable that I have here is the Boolean type. I name it operation activation. This is the variable that I'm going to control the state of the operational button, which means, for example, if it's false, that means the operational buttons are not clickable. I just use this to control when user can click on the operational button and when user cannot. Okay, here I also have another variable from number type, which I name it num-result. I'm going to use this variable to store the result of the calculation, mathematical calculation within this variable. And I'm going to connect it to this text field to show the result of the operation. And the next variable that I define here is the string type, and I name it the last operation. I'm going to use this one in order to kind of save the last operation that the user click on it, because I want to have a functional equal button. So the last operation basically is happening in the when the user click the equal button. And then I define one Boolean type variable, which I name it reset. So I'm using this Boolean reset in order to distinguish two different user flow. Either user is starting the calculation for the first time, or user is coming from a kind of end of another journey, finalize the calculation, click on the equal button, and want to start the new calculation. The last but not the least is the string type variable, which the name is history, and I'm going to use this to store all the things that user is doing in my calculator, and I'm going to connect it to a text field, which is invisible right now because the value of this variable, history variable, is basically empty, so we cannot see anything here at this very moment, but there is one text field which I connected to this one, and basically I add everything user does to this text field. Okay, let's switch to the prototype mode in order to start to kind of investigate the interactions that I define for each element. So let's start with the buttons in the number pad. I'm going to select this first one and open the prototyping panel here. As you can see, I defined a lot of conditional prototyping here in order to kind of handle different user flow that I would have in my design. It's really depend on you, how you handle your user flow. You might need to define maybe more conditional, or maybe you can just achieve it with less. It's really depend on how you think about your user flow. So let's expand the first condition that we made in order to see the details. I'm going to click on the if section in order to exactly see the condition that we made here. The first thing that I'm going to check in this condition is to see if our operation display variable, which is connected to this text field, is equal to 0 or not. The second condition that I'm checking here is that if user is already clicked on the equal button and coming from the end of the flow and starting again or not. So that's the thing that you can see here. The Boolean reset, if it's true, that means the user kind of did some calculation and click on the equal button. And if it's false, that means that user is doing it for the first time. And if the conditions are there, I would like to add 1 as a new character to the rest of the characters of the string variable that we have here, the operational display. We already connected to this text field on top. The next condition, let me just collapse this one. I open this one. In the next condition, I am checking what will happen if the value of this variable is already 0 and the user is starting the journey for the first time. Then I said, okay, then I do not need to add new character. I can just directly make this string variable that I have equal to 1, or the value of the number pad that exists here. If it was the number pad 2, then we would have 2 here. And then in continue, I even check another condition. I said, okay, what if the value of this variable is not 0, so it has already some values, there are some stuff in it, but the user has already clicked on the equal button. So the previous calculation has been done and we want to start a new one. I said, okay, first of all, we set the value of this variable to the value of the number that we click on, in this case, number 1. The second thing that I would like to do is to set the Boolean reset value to false again, to kind of start a new process, new calculation. Most probably when we are here, if these conditions are applicable in our case, then this variable should be true. So I'm going to reset it again. I'm going to make it false. And then I'm going to reset again the number user input variable. So basically the one that we are going to do the operation. So the calculation has been done. I'm resetting it here. And I'm going to reset the variable that is connected to this text field here. So if we already did the calculation and we have some result here, if the user start to click on this number pad, this is going to be reset. Just if user click on the equal button beforehand. And these are the conditions, just controlling how the number pad is going to behave. And in addition, I want each time when the user click on this number pad, I'm going to set the value of the number user input to the value that is already have, multiple by 10 to add a new digit, and then plus the number that we're clicking on, in this case 1. And at the end, I'm going to make the state of the operational button active using this variable. So far it was deactive. This means at the beginning of the process, user cannot click on the plus, minus, and the rest of the operational buttons. This is the basically conditionals and all the prototypes and interactions that I use for all the buttons. For example, the second button is the number pad number 2. And as you can see, it's following the same thing, just everywhere that I use 1 as a value of this button, I use 2 this time because it's the relevant value that I have to use. In this case, if we run again the prototype, you can see the user is able to add all the numbers by clicking on the numbers in the number pad. And if we do any operations like, okay, I did 1 plus and then I did equal. Now, if I start to enter a new number, you can see that everything gets reset and calculator works properly. The next element that play a really important role in this prototype is, of course, the operational buttons such as this one. I'm going to open the interaction window. And here you can see that I use one conditional interaction. And here you see that I check only one condition. I want to get sure that if user should be allowed to click on operational button or not. If this button is active, then the rest of the operations, the rest of the interactions should be happen. But what does this exactly mean? Let me run my prototype one more time. So as you can see, user won't be able to click and use the operational button before entering any number. So right now it's disabled. I cannot click on it. When I enter a number, and again, I click on the plus button, you can see that it works. And again, here I need to enter a new number. Otherwise, I cannot click on this button. It's not going to work. So that's the reason that I'm checking the state of the button first. Then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the character here, the plus character, to the operation display variable, which is connected to this one. So I want to show that which operation is happening. And then I'm going to do the mathematical thing. So I'm going to take the result that we have so far and add the number that the user enter into numpad using this mathematical kind of operation. And then in the next step, I'm going to do the reset. I'm going to reset the number, that the variable that we store the value that the user enter. I'm going to set it to 0. I'm resetting it. And then I'm going to set the last operation to plus. I will just let you know what I mean here by just showing you how the interaction is for the equal button. And then at the end, I'm going to again set the state of the operational button to false. So we first check if the button is active, and then we do all the interactions. And then at the end, again, I'm setting the state of the button to false, that user cannot click on it again. So the next button that we can try to understand how the interactions works for it is the equal button. I'm going to open the interaction window for it. And as you can already see, it's very crazy. I mean, the amount of the expression that we write down here is so much. And to be honest, controlling such a element, such an interaction would be also very hard. I mean, just imagine if you hand over this to someone else, it would be very difficult to figure out how this interaction is working if you want to change something, or if you want to update the design. So that's why I'm saying Figma so far is not the best tool to create such a logics. Or you need to try to simplify your logic. But here what I'm doing is basically I'm checking what is the last operation. Plus, if it's add button, then some sort of interaction is going to happen. If it is minus, then other stuff is going to happen. In this way you can have control how the equal button is going to behave regarding the latest operation that the user has been done. If the user click on plus button as the last operational button, and the variable which is showing the state of the buttons, the operational buttons, is equal with true, which means the operational buttons are active again, then I would like to add the equal character to the string variable OP display. Again, this one connected to the 0. And then I'm going to make the state of the button again deactive, so user cannot click again on it. And then at the end, I'm going to do the final result. So I'm going to update the final result with the final number that the user enter here. So I'm going to set the value of the number result variable to the same value plus the new number that the user enter. And at the end, I'm going to set the value for Boolean reset variable to true. This means, okay, user clicked on the equal button. And that's what exactly happening here. So for example, if I write down 45 plus 6, and then I click on the equal button, you can see that first of all, we see the equal character here in this string variable. And then we see the result of all calculation here down there in the result variable. And if I start to kind of click a new button in the number pad, you can see everything gets reset based on the interactions that we made for the number pad. So far everything is good. Before we go further, I would like to also mention that we have the small impression here. Here I'm updating the value of the history variable that we connected to this text field in the history page. So I'm saying let's set the value of the history variable to the variable of history variable plus whatever we see here. So I'm adding the previous step operations and calculation to history again, plus the result of the process. And then I also add one divider, which will help me later on to see the different operations in my history. So for example, if I click here on 65 and then plus 2, and then I click on equal, at the same time, if I switch to my history, you can see that we see the string variable for storing my operation, and then the result, and then the divider. So this is exactly the expression that I wrote down there. And the last but not the least is our reset button here. Here I just reset every variable that I have to the initial state. This will help me to kind of get to the initial state of the calculator as well. So let's give it a try here as well. So 8 plus 8 equals 16. We go to history, we see the history. We can continue the next operation, plus 2, 4. We can see that it's there. I mean, we add both calculation to our history. And if I click on the AC here, you can see that all the variables, at least these 2 are visible, are now reset to their initial state. And then if I go to history, we will see nothing here because we also reset that variable. Okay, at the end of the video, I would like to give you 2 tips that I've learned when I was working on this prototype. The first thing that I've learned is that the order of the conditions and interactions and expressions that you're writing in each interaction panel is important. If I change the order of these things, maybe the prototype is not going to work well. So get sure that you check the orders and everything works well. And if it's not, you can play with the order and follow the logic. The order should be logical as well. And the last point is that I would like to emphasize one more time on the importance of understanding the user flow. If you know the user flow, then you can convert that user flow to the conditions. Then you can convert those conditions to the things that you see in interactions that we have. Some interactions just have one condition. Maybe if we want to go further, make the user flow more complex, then we need to consider checking more conditional stuff. But if not, then it's easier to have one or less. Some of the in some cases, we have to check more stuff. So we would have more conditions in our interaction. And as you can see, we can have multiple as much as we want. It might make the structure of our interaction a little bit complex, but then that's the only way that we can achieve this kind of logics. So that's it for this video. As you saw, I made the number pad working. I made the functional equal button, and I made the plus button work as well. The AC button is also working, so you can reset the calculation. However, the rest of the mathematical operational buttons are not functional yet. So let me know if you find this topic interesting. Maybe we can make another video. Also, if you have solution which is working better, or if you continue work yourself on the other functional button, you can share it with me. I can go through your design and share it with the other people as well. Now, before I end this video, I would like to ask you one more time to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done yet. Like this video and share your thoughts and opinion and questions in the comment section with me. I'm reading all the comments, and I'm trying to kind of make the videos and content that is going to be helpful for you. Let's learn together, and see you in the next video.